Let's face it, mastering language patterns and speaking intuitively like Tony Robbins or Russell Brand is not always that easy. Quite often you know theoretically what you should say, but when you try to say it for real, it doesn't really come out. Or maybe your mind goes blank, and that is completely normal. In this video, we are going to reveal the hidden cause behind why it happens and provide some effective solutions to make you much more persuasive in every conversation you have, or most of them at least. First of all, let's address, my friend, the main problems I keep seeing from people who don't succeed with language patterns, with becoming fluent at hypnotic language, with sleight of mouth. What is the common denominator for all the people who never master that? Mainly, they try to memorize. That is the best thing that school taught us that is completely wrong. They try to memorize everything before practicing for real. They want to memorize long lists of language patterns that they will never use because no conversation is going to happen exactly as it is laid out in a book or in a even in a video. As Richard Bandler has outlined many times, you don't learn by memorizing, you learn by patterning, which means creating sequences in your brain. I hear this, I say that. The same way a martial artist is slipping a punch, counter punch, a sequence. You build sequences in your head and the language becomes automatic. It is exactly how we learn to speak when we are a newborn, when we are like 2 years old. We learn to speak by creating sequences. I see this, I say that. I feel hungry, I say, mommy, I want food. That is how we learn. So you learn language patterns by creating sequences between the main phrases you get stuck by in a conversation and the main simple language patterns or questions you can ask whenever you hear that phrase again that used to get you stuck. So the other problem is that many guys try to figure out the whole conversation before they try to practice anything. They want to rehearse if it is a job interview, a sales interaction, or a dating context where they want to seduce a girl. They try to mentalize, conceptualize literally everything that could be said in this conversation before practicing. But same thing doesn't work like this. You learn from experience, you don't learn from rehearsing or memorizing again. But more specifically, even 10 times worse than the things I just enumerated, what really causes most of the problems is to try to work on the arguments, to try to reframe, study how I could say this in that way so that it cancels their limiting beliefs. Stop working on the arguments, on the reframes, work on the relationship you have with the one person you can't argue against. Because if you are here trying to improve yourself in communication, it means, don't lie, I have seen hundreds of people like you before, it means there is at least one person in your life you haven't been able to defend against verbally or that you still suffer from. There is one type of relationship that causes you trouble. Maybe it is with some of your parents, maybe it is with a family member, maybe some school teacher at school kind of bullied you psychologically, always made you feel like an insecure idiot. Maybe some ex-girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, someone at some point made fun of you or did not respect you, or you have tried to argue with that person, you haven't been able to do so. And because of that kind of suffering, that wound, that may still be kind of difficult to talk about, now you want to develop your communication skills to make sure you could defend against that person or rekindle the relationship if it is somebody you wish could be part of your life and it is not possible right now. At least you try to improve that situation. So the main way you are going to improve in the end is by focusing on how can I use indeed those language patterns to work on that relationships and on my beliefs about this relationship or that person that I have trouble with. How can I reframe my own thoughts, my own beliefs about who that person is compared to me, and how can I solve any conflict, argument, disagreements with that person. Basically, you do that by investigating what have been all the past experiences, the most heated past experiences, where you haven't been able to defend yourself verbally. Whenever you found yourself stuck in a professional context, personal context, intimate context with an ex-partner, whenever something like this happened, what specifically has been said that you haven't been able to deal with? What kind of phrases have caught you off guard or like silenced you because muted you because you didn't know how to respond? What are they? And why those phrases have a grip on you emotionally? Obviously, it is not the words, it is the person saying them. But even with that, take that as a good example. What are the things that you have within the relationships you have suffered the most from? What are the kind of phrases you haven't been able to respond to? Because those ones are the ones we want to demystify, understand in deeper intricacies, so that we improve our language skills. Once you can get past the emotional maturity to deal with the kind of statements that got you stuck in the past, then any conversation is going to be super smooth, extremely easy, because who can do the most can do the least. Once you have dealt with the thing that is the most emotionally loaded for you, then any conversation is going to be a breath of fresh air. And ultimately, the biggest changes will happen by challenging what you presuppose is true about your relationship with that person. Whoever it is, that person, if that person has been able to manipulate you, to distance you from your friends, to make you, get you to make choices that didn't serve you at all later, okay, there was somehow a magnetic grip between you and that person at some point. Hopefully this is over. Maybe there is still some lingering links between you and that person. Whatever the case is, you notice what pops up in your mind when you consider the uncomfortable thought process. Why does that person can force me or control my thoughts? Or how can that person make me think about them so much? Because if they are renting free space in your head all day long, how exactly are they doing that? How did they invite themselves to rent free space in your head? How did they do that? What was the first trigger point that allowed them to do so? And why are they still there? You have some annoying person renting room in your head. Why don't you kick them off, kick them out? What stops you from kicking them out? Exactly. Because once you have done that successfully, then any similar person and any very negative or manipulative person will just be gone from your life. And whenever you will meet another one, similar to those ones, you will spot that person from a mile away. Whereas when we are young and uneducated about life, we tend to trust too many people too fast, and we don't realize some people are just fucking toxic and don't deserve any love, any respect. They just need to be out of your life. Because if they stay there, they will just get you lower and lower and lower as the years go by. Obviously, this is an extreme case, but it still happens every day. So if you want to better understand how to use language to that extent, to reframe your own beliefs, the beliefs of anyone you are interacting with, you can download a small document down below called the 7 Steps to Master Sleight of Mouth, and you simply take each of the language patterns one by one and you apply it once and for all on the beliefs you have about your lack of capacities in dealing with toxic people, or any kind of phrase you tell yourself to justify that, well, you have been kind of defenseless against this one person who manipulated you. It is only because this was a bad person. I am not at fault in any way. Well, it is 50-50. That person may have been toxic, but also you were somehow inviting them to take some space in your head. Even if it was unconscious, and for most of us it is unconscious, in that case, specifically, you use all the language patterns to bring back into consciousness the reasons why you have somehow let that person rent space in your head. And how can you now distance yourself from that person through the way you explain in your own thoughts, why is it finally over? You have these down below, all the things are explained, and I hope you will have a good day.